Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode I almost said Pixel Power Play. My bad. It's a gaming podcast. We're not doing that anymore. Caboose, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. We're fresh off the heels of Pixel
Yes.
Power Play. A lot of awesome Toronto gaming representing, just Canadian gaming as well in general.
Yep.
Really great to have you guys throw such an awesome event and to kind of celebrate, gaming excellence here in Canada, and also, bring together a lot of people that we know and a lot of people that are great in the space. It was just an awesome event overall. I wanted to say congratulations to you. Congratulations to
Thank
Steve
you.
McVary, one of the
Yep.
hosts of our show here as well. And then Camille for an amazing job hosting as always. You guys crushed it. You guys crushed it.
I find it funny. Anytime we give Camille a compliment, never here.
Yeah, right?
She's never
Right?
here. So,
God. That's what's going to happen. The one time she's not here, I'm going to say something like Death Stranding is good. But,
yeah, and then she's not here to hear it whatsoever. But no, thank you so much. It was a lot. It was a lot of work, but it definitely paid off, and there was a lot of a great outcome, and a lot of people were really happy about it. And not only that, like Toronto Games Week, so many activations around. Like not only one Toronto Games Month, I'm like, okay, a month might be too much, but I'm happy with the week. I'm happy with the week and everything. There's a lot of cool activations, and thank you to them for allowing us to do our thing and everything as well. So, but it was a good activation, and now they want it bigger, and everyone's like, people already claiming see you next year, and I'm like, wait, what? I didn't. We didn't claim that yet. What's going on here? But no,
no
we'll
confirmation, but I feel like it was a good enough event. We'll see. We'll see.
We'll have to see. But another big thing that happened is Donkey Kong Bonanza. I don't know if you saw the video today from the Nintendo Direct, 17-minute video showing off some new thing. No, you're the only one who was hyped up about Donkey Kong. Everyone else is like, guys, it's a tutorial, and and you were like, well, I don't understand here. This live up to your hype.
Tutorial pissed people off, huh? Yeah, I mean, when we got to our early hands-on a little while back, I mean, don't get me wrong. Of course, everyone's raving about Mario Kart World. That was like the big draw at the end of the day. It's the kind of launch title for the Switch 2 as well. So everyone's going to be buzzing about Mario Kart World, understandably. But yeah, Donkey Kong Bonanza was the one that really caught my eye. It was the really caught my attention because I don't know. I guess I just hadn't played a Donkey Kong game like this in so long, and I feel like we're finally getting kind of that like Mario Odyssey treatment, and it's got like some innovative ideas, it's got some interesting concepts. And when I watched this direct, I was feeling all those things that I had tried out at that early hands-on for the Switch 2 and more. Like you're seeing all the different innovations they're adding into this game, and it looks like a ton of fun. It looks like an absolute blast. I think there was a report too that had come out that it's like a similar team or a younger team from the folks that worked on Mario Odyssey, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so like all that just sounds great to me. Everything that they're showing here really looks like a blast. This is definitely going to be a game that I'm going to sink a ton of hours into. And this looks like it's one of those games where if you pair it alongside Mario Kart World, you can really start to justify owning a Switch 2.
No, absolutely. Because like another thing as well, it's using a lot of the Switch 2 functions, whereas Mario Kart World doesn't.
Right.
Like Mario Kart doesn't use like 120. It doesn't even use. No, obviously there's no mouse mode. There's no game share whatsoever. This is using all that stuff right there, except for the mouse, obviously. But it has game share. If someone like not only that, you can actually use the Nintendo Switch 1 with it as well. If someone who's like, oh, I really want to play Donkey Kong game, like don't worry, you can play along with me.
That's
and
awesome.
It can be trying out Paulina, who is the little rocket you can see right here.
Yeah.
Big shocker. I don't know if how far you reached in that demo, but we met this little rock. We're like, oh, okay, this is our little rock companion. Is going to be joining us.
Right.
Surprise, surprise. It's Paulina.
Yeah, exactly. That was a huge surprise to me because I was like, that was not in the demo that we had played, at least as far as I could remember. So pretty cool of Nintendo to keep that secret, even in the hands-on that we had got until they did this big reveal for the Direct here.
Yeah, and like a lot of obviously a lot of things that we saw was with the different functions of throwing and like if concrete like especially if you wanted to grab something like if it was grabbing like sand, it's easy to pull up. If you're grabbing concrete, you gotta hold on a little bit longer. Just like the little things, just to rip it off and everything. And you can surf with different elements and everything.
Surfing on the rocks,
surfing on the rocks. And you can destroy whole terrain if you want to as well. Really cool. And then not only that, they also have skill trees on top of that, which also allows you to transform. Hello.
Ooh.
into like some bigger a bigger Kong if you wanted to, or you're able
A
to
King Kong,
a
even.
King Kong exactly, or like a zebra that makes you run a little bit faster. You can run across water, and then
You
an
can see
ostrich.
like the Mario
Yeah.
Odyssey like
Oh yeah,
influence, right? You know, like this is totally the
100%.
ideas that they were carrying over from that game, and now making it like within the flavor and the world and the fun of Donkey Kong.
Yeah,
And I really love that. I really, really love all the different ideas and the things you could do here. And that was one of the things too. You know, when you're talking about like ripping the concrete out and digging and going like all that level of exploration, that was one of the things that really impressed me when I first got my hands on with the game. Is like you can like infinitely dig down,
yeah,
basically. The camera gets all weird when you do that,
yeah,
but
yeah,
what I found fun about that is you're introducing a new element of exploration,
yeah.
and you never know what kind of puzzles or secrets or hidden features or things you might find when you just dig down from any
Yeah.
part of the map. And I think that that's such a fun, like, neat idea.
Obviously, these guys are huge fans of what's that movie that King Kong?
Yeah.
Because where do you go underneath Earth, and then there's another Earth there, and you just keep going
Oh, right,
down
right. Like all
different
the newer
levels. Yeah.
Kong
Oh
movies,
yeah,
right? Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
So
awesome.
so very very neat, especially with this how many different levels and like we get the Void Kongs. There's different like these new bosses. Pauline's the only one talking English, but everyone else can understand it. They're all speaking in Kong, I guess, and everything. But this was a really neat direct. Now, did this what they showed here was it enough for you? You're like, oh yeah, I'm excited for this game.
I mean, I was already kind of looking forward to the game at first.
Yep.
You were all you guys were the ones who were like, "Yeah, that tutorial sucks." So I'm wondering if it was enough to convince like people like yourself or Riley.
Yeah, no,
But for me,
absolutely.
I was like, I'm in. You know, I like
Yeah,
the concept. I like the idea. I'm only getting such a small sample size of it, and
yeah.
now that we got to get a bit more information and got a better look at all the different things you can do in the game, you know, turning into zebras or ostriches or whatever it might be,
Yep.
I'm just even more on board than I was before.
No, absolutely. And like for me, it was just like we were just playing like a tutorial. So I was like, okay, well, like, is there more to this game? And then obviously we know there's gonna be more for this game. But what they did show here, I was like, all right, I'm in. Bring
Yeah.
on the Kong. And like, not only that, DK Rap is back. So good.
Yes. Yes.
Everyone should be happy about it. They have different side scroller like levels for like different challenges. Diddy Kong is there, and Dixie Kong are in
I
the
saw
game
Cranky
as well.
Kong in there too.
Cranky
You
Kong's in
know?
the game, and I can't remember the rhino's name, Rambo or whatever his name
I
is.
think it's
but
Ramby,
he's
is it?
Ramby,
Yeah,
Ramby.
yeah, yeah.
He's in the game as well. There's a lot of cool nostalgia to it. Amiibos work with it as well. If you happen to get the $30 US, by the way,
Woo,
to Amiibo,
woo.
that is
Pretty
one
penny.
expensive dress to get for Paulina. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Just saying. Like, but if you happen to
But
get
if the Switch 2 itself and Mario Kart World is to go by, I mean, it doesn't matter. If it's Nintendo, if
Oh,
it's
yeah.
new,
People
people are
getting it.
they're
People
gonna
taking
spend
it.
the money. They're gonna spend the money.
especially for Paulina, like Donkey Kong, like Amiibo, to be like, I need that.
You just gotta have
Add to the Amiibo collections. That's when they're gonna go up in value. If you get there 30, yeah, $100 something later on and everything. So
I also just want to say too that like visually it is such a pretty game. You know,
is.
like it's so bright and vibrant, but then also you're going into like these underground mines and there's all these like different sort of visuals that you're getting out of the game. And it's like, I mean, obviously like this isn't like this photorealistic looking game, but it definitely is showing off sort of the tech and the power of the Switch 2 and the fact that
fast.
Yeah, we're in a new console generation for Nintendo right now, and you're gonna get a bit more out of it than you would have if you were on the original Switch, which that's great to see.
No, absolutely. Like I mean, obviously, it would have been more difficult if this launched with the Switch, because people were like, okay, well, I kind of want to play Mario Kart. Like if you knew Mario Kart was down the road, they did it the right way. Even though Mario Kart doesn't really show what the Switch 2 can do besides, yes, I know 24 players. That's great. That's great and everything, but it doesn't really show like, hey, this is what the Switch 2 can do. Game share. There's mouse mode. There's like
exactly,
different things.
right?
Like so, this is the game. I feel like this is like the game that shows, hey, this is what the Switch 2 can do.
I said this again when we were at that early hands-on. I was like, you know, if anything, Kong Bananza looks more like the game that would have ended up being the one to cost more versus Mario Kart World, which I think a lot of people are starting to see it now. And I agree with you. Like, there's a lot to like about Mario Kart World. I'm not saying it's a bad game by any means, But it's one of those things where I'm staring at it and I'm like, is it really worth being that much more expensive of a product? It like, it didn't feel like there was enough content even in there where I was like, yeah, I'm getting my money's worth, And
Yeah.
the fun, I will say, that comes out of a game like Mario Kart World is playing with your friends and that whole like communal experience that you get out of it, or even just playing things like Knockout Tour is a good amount of fun. It's
Yeah.
just not enough where I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is a premium 110 Canadian dollar experience that I'm getting out of this thing.
Yeah.
Whereas Donkey Kong Bonanza, everything that I'm looking at, it's got this story mode, it's got all these new features, there's so much customization,
And
it
it's
looks
cheaper.
beautiful, and it's cheaper. It's a regular price game.
It's $100. It's $100.
Oh, it's $100 Canadian. So what is it, like a
like
normal 70 in US?
Over
or whatever?
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So there you go.
Yeah.
So this is a normal priced game versus the more expensive Mario Kart, which was honestly just like baffling to me. And you talked about like the amiibo and the way you can customize Pauline and stuff. I love what they showed in the actual Direct 2 of the customization for Donkey Kong and for Pauline, all the different costumes, different colors that you can add in there too.
There's a ZBrush mode.
Right? Like that is so cool.
Like it's crazy.
That is so cool. All that stuff for me is like, it adds so much flavor to video games when you can be able to like customize your character and make them look different from somebody else's. So that just makes it so that your experience is unique from everyone else's when you play the game. So I'm glad that they have something like that in there too. The map looks rather large. All the different stages look like they have plenty of secrets and things to find, fossils and all sorts of fun stuff. This has like all the right ideas and the makings for a really, really good game. And I think Nintendo's going to knock it out of the park with this one.
No, absolutely. This one might become like a lot of like people's favorite game. It might be like a sleeper hit.
I think so. I think so. And for a lot of people too, when does this come out? July 17th, right?
July 17th, yeah.
I think for a lot of people, they're going to look back at this and be like, why wasn't the Switch 2 just pushed out one more month? Like I feel like if we waited one more month, we would have definitely plenty of stock, right? You would have a lot of inventory for people to be buying the Switch 2s, but also you would have had Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza ready to go at launch. People would have been flying out the door with Switch 2s in their hands and with both of those games, and you'd be able to get one bundle or the other. It would have sold like crazy, and it definitely would have made it a lot more enticing to get a Switch 2. It's weird, though. I'm saying all this, and still they were looking at like 3.5 million sales in the last week,
right?
1.1 million in the US alone. So like, I'm complaining. People are buying the Switch 2s anyway, so it's not like Nintendo did anything wrong,
only 3.5. I'm sorry, Nintendo.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe
right,
we could have
right.
4 million or something like that.
Yeah.
And like I feel like as well they probably take into consideration. Okay, maybe since games are gonna be more expensive, let's kind of like spread it out, give people like time to like a month to save up their coins for like the next game. Yeah. And then like maybe in August is another game.
Yeah. I mean, it's so cool too. There's like 2-player co-op. You can have somebody using the mouse mode playing as Pauline. Like, they really packed in a lot into this game.
A lot.
You're talking about a sleeper hit. I think this is just going to be one that everyone, especially after this Direct, I don't know what the general consensus is online.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, man, this looks freaking awesome. Like, I think like a lot of people are probably excited for this right now.
There's game chat to do like co-op sessions for seamless communication. Like,
that's amazing.
And that works with the. The game share works with Switch 1 as well. So like if someone didn't have the game, you're like, oh, you want to try Donkey Kong for a little bit? Here you go. Like that's insane.
Yeah, that is a really, really awesome thing. Yeah, they're doing all the right things. This is a good Direct. This is a strong showcase for Nintendo. And the game looks just as fun as I remember it. When I played it.
It's not a tutorial anymore. It's a full-fledged game.
It looks more fun for everybody else as being a bunch of negative Nancy's when they were getting their early hands on.
Listen, we were just playing a tutorial, okay? That's all we were doing. Even though it was the first level and everything, but like I do like the fact you can do like there's a skill tree as well, and you can upgrade the sonar if you wanted to. They're doing a lot with this game, so really impressive. I'm sure a lot of people are excited for this. Now I know a lot of people were looking for a Nintendo Direct. I still think one of this coming out next week or something like that.
Like a proper Nintendo Direct?
Like a third party, because we need some dates on some stuff. Metroid, we need one.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That is the one thing where it's like, when are we getting Metroid? If it's this year, right? It's still slated for this year.
They said this year, and it's like that's a cross-gen game. So I figured they might want to keep that at least close to the launch,
right?
But like besides Donkey Kong, only Pokemon is that the only one we know has a date.
Right.
So
Oh, well, yeah, no, I think you're
where's
right then.
Metroid?
We're due for like a good proper Nintendo Direct that's going to go over a lot of
Yeah,
these third-party titles and just games in general that are coming out this year, slated for this year, but we don't have a proper release date for yet.
yeah.
I'm sure that's got to be right around the corner.
So out of curiosity, because I've a lot of with the whole pixel power play, I haven't had that much time and everything.
Okay.
How was your experience with the Switch 2 been so far?
I have liked it. I have enjoyed it. I've been playing a lot of Mario Kart with friends, which has really helped me like feel justified in my purchase. And yeah, Mario Kart World is like a good amount of fun. It's just like I'm not looking at it. I'm like, oh my god, like $110 game. Hell yeah, I see it all.
Yeah,
But overall, like it's a good console. So it's blowing my mind how well Cyberpunk runs on this thing. I know Steve Saylor was saying a lot of the same thing.
yeah.
And then yeah, like Street Fighter runs really well on it
Street Fighter
too.
is nuts. Yeah,
Yeah, like there's a lot here that you can get that's like pretty cool. And like what's always been so enticing about the Switch as a console, even from the Switch 1, is that concept of, well, I got to go out or I got to take a plane somewhere, but I want to be able to play my games. I want to enjoy that experience still. The Switch allows you to do that.
yeah.
Are you on this mission you're really excited to play in Cyberpunk, but you gotta head out on a flight? Just take the Switch with you, take the Switch
Yeah.
2 with you and play that mission on the plane. Like
Yeah.
that is something that is that's always like the novelty, and it's a big part of the reason why they didn't change too much from the Switch 1 to the Switch 2. And it's you get more out of this system than you did with the last one. It's the same sort of concept, but now you can play games like running even better, looking
Yeah.
even better. And I think that that's a good thing.
I'm glad you also mentioned that like how the games are running better, because there's a lot of games that weren't even listed on like their performance upgrade, graphical upgrade, and
Right.
everything. There's a lot of like old ones like Switch games. For example, WWE 2K 2018. The
Oh my god, I
worst
saw people
game
posting about this. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
ever. Like, if you run like an 8-player match, the game was just chugging everything. Guess what? Runs buttery smooth. Now, like, because it's doing some form of emulation of the Switch 1 games.
Right.
So a lot of games are just naturally running better. Like Bayonetta will have like crazy frame drops. Bayonetta 3, I mean, and like even that game is running at 60 frames. So a lot of games, the fact that and I feel like not too many systems do this without being like, oh, here's $10 patch, or re-download like the Xbox version of this game.
Right.
It's just fact that it's just like, oh, let me just play this Switch 1 game I have here. And it just runs better. I feel like if you are a Switch owner and you're like, oh, this game's not running great, if you are able to get the Switch 2, I think even that alone is like helping a lot. It will make your Switch 1 catalog a better experience.
Yeah, no doubt about that. You're absolutely right. It's crazy to think too that people are looking back at games like a WWE 2K18 that's come out however many years ago.
Oh, so long ago, yeah.
And people are like, wait, holy crap, I can actually play it now on my
Glad
Switch.
you just can't
2.
get the game again.
Yeah. But I wonder
Crazy.
like how many different games there are out there for the Switch that are like that, like,
Yeah.
hey, they do have kind of a re-release, or I don't know what you would call it, for Hogwarts Legacy on the Switch 2,
Yes.
where it's like, oh, it's the actual game now
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the Switch 2, rather than like whatever Switch port that they were making for the first Nintendo Switch. So yeah, little things like that. It does make this console worth having. If you were somebody who maybe didn't love your Switch 1 for that reason, maybe you traded it in or sold it for whatever reason, you definitely have an excuse and a pretty good reason to get back into it now with the Switch 2.
Absolutely. And then like all those, if you download the games, it'll be right there waiting for you as well.
Exactly.
I know for me, like I didn't finish the second Zelda game because I was like, this is just too much. And like, it's not to say it wasn't performing well, but it was like, it was way too much.
Video game.
There's a lot of video games, but then knowing that Pokemon, the Scarlet, that was a complete disaster.
Right.
Like, sometimes running at 10 frames, and like I'm like I'll be waiting for Pokemon to load in sometimes. I was like, what's going on here? So and now I'm actually able to play this game that's running fluently as well. So it's and like, I'm glad they give that update for free. I feel like they had to, because people were like, where's the patch? And you're like, well, the patch is a new system.
There you go.
That's kind of crazy to think
There
about.
you go.
But overall, I've been having a good time to Switch as much little time as I had.
Here's your $700 60 FPS.
Yeah, right. That's insane. That's crazy. Can you imagine they're like, well, hey, this is gonna be a $10 patch. I'm like, are you ready to buy your Pokemon? But people will still pay for that. The Pokemaniacs out there, they'll pay for it. Absolutely crazy, man. But yeah, overall, I've been having a good time. Even though I had very little, I feel like I grabbed the Switch, did a little bit of, I did like one stream with it, and then that was it. That's what I was able to do so far.
Oh man, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Switch 2. I'm getting to the point where I'm getting my money's worth. I think around the time the Kong Bananza comes out, I'm gonna really feel like, all right, yep, I understand now why I feel good about pre-ordering, why I feel good about running out and getting my hands on one.
Absolutely.
Now, Marcel, I'm gonna take the reins a little bit.
Yeah, go for it,
if you don't mind. Because
Please.
I know we have one topic we're going to get to in a little bit, but I kind of wanted to use this opportunity for a topic that's very much related to the other one that you have for today.
Yeah.
In regards to WB Games.
Yep.
And now there's a rumor we're going to get to in a little bit, but first I wanted to talk about a report that I had seen from Variety just yesterday, as of when we're recording here today. And it's a report about how they are going through a major restructuring at WB Games. So to my understanding, what they're doing now is they are appointing some studio heads of like WB Montreal or NetherRealm Studios, and they're promoting them to a higher position at WB Games where they will essentially oversee the 4 key pillars that they are thinking of at like WB. So right now, WB considers Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, Mortal Kombat specifically, and DC to be like their 4 key franchises that they want to take care of, that they want to bolster. And what I am seeing and what I'm reading
specifically, not Batman, DC specifically.
Finally, yeah, they're saying DC.
Okay. Wow,
they were originally saying Batman.
Yeah, it's like only Batman's words.
Yeah. now they're saying DC. Okay, which is good.
Okay. Yeah.
But so from what we're understanding here, the original head at WB Games Montreal has been promoted to the Senior Vice President of Development, overseeing development teams working on Harry Potter games and Game of Thrones games. And then the studio head at NetherRealm, Sean Himrick, who I've actually met, really great guy, he's been promoted to the Senior Vice President of Development, overseeing Mortal Kombat and DC games. Then they got somebody who was working over at WB Games New York to overlook like the customer service, quality assurance, and all that stuff. But essentially, the idea here is WB Games wants to have kind of these figureheads that work under the umbrella that look over every project that's made for these key franchises. And right now, it looks like we've got 2 guys that are looking over Harry Potter and Game of Thrones for one, and then Mortal Kombat and DC for the other. Now, I guess my question to you is, do you think this leads to a more quality of an output? Do you think that this prevents more games getting canceled, more studios getting shut down? Or do you think that this is all just kind of like a bit jumbled and kind of all over the place?
I figure this seems to be a little more organized to keep things like structured, especially with who's the person for NetherRealms?
So for NetherRealm, it's the studio head of NetherRealm Studios, Sean Himrick, and he's going to be looking over MK and DC.
So what's one big thing from that studios already? It's Mortal Kombat and Injustice.
Yes.
So I figured this would be a perfect way to, maybe if you want to even do a crossover, or if you want to do the the releases of like, okay, it's Injustice turn to come out and then like go back to that same format. Because for a while we were like, okay, MK10, Injustice, MK11, Injustice 2. You know, like it had been a nice little pattern, nice little rhythm. And I figured that, especially with those 2 games and the fighting style are kind of similar, it's a good way to keep things nice and structured and organized as well. But then, what does that mean about like a Batman game or a Superman game or a Wonder Woman game?
Right.
If that comes out. Like what? So like that's a lot to juggle already.
So I think the announcement of this is very interesting for the fact that it almost seems like they're confirming the development of projects under all 4 of those key umbrellas, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So I think I think that it's pretty much confirmation, although anybody really could have guessed it at this point, that the Game of Thrones game is in some way, shape, or form in development at WB Games. They're trying to figure out who the right studio is to make it, what the right story or idea is. I think that it's like about freaking time. Like Game of Thrones, the height of the hype for Game of Thrones was way before even season 8 in 2019. And so
I mean, they showed a trailer at Summer Game Fest, and then people were a little sad.
Mobile game, man.
Yeah, people were upset. They're like, "Oh, so it's a mobile? Oh, really?
Yeah,
really?
And that's happened like 2 or 3 times now, where it's like there's this really cool CG trailer for something Game of Thrones, and it's like, oh, it's for mobile. Like, come on, give me a AAA RPG Witcher style Game of Thrones game.
Right?
Like, I'm so ready for that. And I feel like the fact that they put so much focus on it and they keep talking about it, it must mean like somebody is trying to pitch it. Somebody is trying to make it happen in the halls of WB Games. And then like Hogwarts Legacy 2, guarantee, right? Like that's such an easy layup.
Worst kept secret, yeah.
Exactly, right? Like this is why games is such a weird thing, because in the film side, if there was a Harry Potter movie that came out that was super duper successful on the level of a Hogwarts Legacy, they would have officially announced and hit the trades that they were making a sequel like instantly. But with games, they always got to keep things like so under wraps.
Hush, and then people don't keep their mouths shut.
Yeah, exactly.
There's just too many people.
Now, in regards to Injustice 3, this is where I get like just a little worried, because they're bumping up the studio head of NetherRealm to oversee Mortal Kombat games and DC games. Now, on the DC side of things, we've heard that Rocksteady might be doing something with Batman. There's all these rumors floating around that that's what they might be going back to. We haven't heard a whole lot about it in Injustice, and it does feel like that for NetherRealm, or at least for WB Games, like Mortal Kombat it brings in the big bucks. It makes them a ton of money. So I'm on the copium that we get in Injustice 3. I really want Injustice 3.
I hope so.
But I'm starting to worry that they might just be like, we gotta focus on MK. It's what makes us the most money.
We just had it. We just had like the good thing, like the reason why I really like the Injustice games as well is honestly the CGI, like the cinematics. I feel like I'm watching the story is fantastic, and I feel like this is the right time to do it, especially with now the whole DC reboot, especially with James Gunn.
Yep.
Maybe that is something that's in the works where they're like, hey, let's do an Injustice story that is tied to our universe in some sort of way. So that's why I'm kind of thinking maybe there might be Injustice before and Mortal Kombat. And Mortal Kombat desperately needs a break right now, especially like
I think so too.
Coming up back to back, one wasn't as successful as they were hoping. They definitely need a break from Mortal Kombat.
I think just creatively too, right? Like the story wasn't as good. It was missing a lot of features. Gameplay was solid. The gameplay was the best since Mortal Kombat X for sure. But it's just like they need that recharge, and that was always what was so good about the fact that they would do Mortal Kombat, then Injustice, then Mortal Kombat, then Injustice. It would give them like enough of a buffer to be like, let's really nail down the story here before we go into our full development. Whereas I think because of the merger and because of everything that was happening a couple of years back, they were like, we just got to go from MK11 into another Mortal Kombat because it's our safest bet. But now that they have like a bit more wiggle room, that now that they like, even though Mortal Kombat 1 hasn't necessarily sold as well as MK11, it's still sold well enough for like every earnings call it gets a mention by WB heads to be like, hey, like this game's doing great. We're really happy with the outcome. So like that's the part of me that's like, oh man, they might want just more MK games because it just churns out a ton of cash. But at the same time, like I don't think Injustice games have ever sold poorly, and I do think that in this new world where we're having, you know, this Superman movie coming out from James Gunn, and he's really trying to revitalize the DC brand, Injustice, it would be a really good time to make a new Injustice game, and as well to kind of try and not necessarily walk back, but change up the story in there so that we get a bit more of a hopeful, you know, uplifting Superman. Because Injustice was kind of one of the many projects at the time that the first one had come out, where it was really popular to just make Superman evil, just make him just. He was always a goody boy,
all the time.
Exactly, right. And so it was fun back in 2013. It was fun back in 2017, But then it was like, all right, guys, like, can we just get like just one Superman story where he's like a good guy? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's, you know, who he is.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a good time for Injustice 3 to come around, change up what they did with Superman in there, make it a more hopeful version of the character. I know, though, the big question for a lot of people, myself included, is really what they would do with Batman. Because the one thing about these games that most people would know is it was Kevin Conroy who did the voice. And, you know, sadly, Kevin Conroy has passed. I doubt that they had done anything with him for a potential Injustice 3. And so what do they do with that character? Do they make it a completely different universe altogether? Do they make it as though it's like it's Dick Grayson who's Batman or Damian Wayne who's Batman now?
Yeah.
Like there are a couple of avenues, but that is one of the major like lingering questions, I imagine.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. Mortal Kombat versus DC 2.
I was about to say, would you rather that?
You know, in a perfect world, that is what we would
blend
get.
the two together, you know?
Well, I mean, the first MK versus DC came out at a time where DC was very protective of their brand.
Yes.
They were like, do not kill our characters, you know?
Yep.
Ever since
Boy,
then,
have they changed.
Exactly, yeah. Ever since then, like every animated movie is like slaughtering our DC heroes.
Especially that was a Dark Apocalypse one.
Yeah, right.
I was
or
like,
even like they made an Injustice animated movie where the Flash gets like torn to bits.
Yeah.
Like there's tons of things like that. The comic books are more mature. Some of their movies and animated series that are now connected to the DCU are rated R projects with swearing and blood and guts and gore. And I feel like they would be so much more on board with what you can get out of a Mortal Kombat versus DC. It's just that the suits up top are going to look at sales numbers and reviews and be like, we are never doing that again. And then they're not going to learn the right lessons as to why.
I think this is probably people don't like to take risk anymore. Everything is so calculated, and like you never know what can be the outcome of this. Like and then this what a perfect time. Not only that you have the head of like NetherRealm looking after Mortal Kombat and DC games, this could be the perfect bridge game to give you that.
Yeah,
I
agree. I agree. It's some different times for WB games. They're on they're I don't know if they're on the ropes, right?
Yeah.
But like they're certainly in a tough position because they sold huge with Hogwarts Legacy, like unprecedented, better than Call of Duty, right? It's absolutely insanity. But then they follow that up with Suicide Squad and Gotham Knights and Multiverses. They cancel the Wonder Woman game and shut down
Burn all that money.
Right? So like there's all the spending that they did after the success of Hogwarts Legacy to very little success, you know? And I do think that a large part of the problem is they took the lessons learned from Hogwarts Legacy the wrong way. Yeah. They took like these massive sales, they took all the success and they were like, we just got to spend it all. Just spend. Rather than they were like, okay, it was a single player RPG that allowed you to explore the world of Harry Potter for the first time ever. Why don't we just do more games like that in different worlds that people want to explore? Where's my single player Superman game? You know, where's my single player story driven Green Lantern game? And you know, what's interesting too is a lot of these games, they don't have to be open world. Like Superman kind of calls for it, but like Green Lantern, I feel like could be a linear space romp, and I think everyone would be happy with it, right? Like, look at the Guardians of the Galaxy game as a perfect example. Or like, you know, Wonder Woman is a really, really unfortunate scenario, but it really did feel like we had all the makings of success there. The Nemesis
Wonder Woman
system
is wicked, man.
Yeah,
it sounded
like,
so good.
There was so much behind it too, and like the guys at Monolith. I mean, if you played Shadow of Mordor or Shadow of War, it is basically an Arkham game. Like the combat is straight up Batman Arkham combat. So if you could imagine that, but you're playing as Wonder Woman and you're throwing around the lasso of truth, I mean, there was so much that could have been awesome about that game. But yeah, like these games don't necessarily have to be massive, giant, big budget, open world games. We could get linear experiences out of them that are just as good, that are just as successful. And you know, you spend half the budget. You don't blow $200 to $300 million on the project.
Why haven't we had like a Teen Titans like a Marvel
Alliance like an Ultimate Alliance
Teen
Titans?
Teen Titans, very easy. Like
I know. There's so many different things. I feel like they're really
need to talk to us more. You know, I'm just letting you know right now. Like, hey, wait, what you got for a cook up? I don't know, Teen Titans game. That'd be great.
Yeah.
The voice actors in that one? Come on. I don't know, man.
They've really, really missed out on
Yeah.
some key ideas and concepts, all in favor of like everything's got to be bigger and better and grander than the last. And it's like this, we're just not getting the right lessons here. And I do hope that this restructuring at WB Games, it allows them to have a bit more quality control, but also just a bit more organization. Because I
Yeah.
do think that's a big part of the problem as well, is you own such huge franchises and you've probably got a million people pitching you a million ideas a day. And inevitably, like one comes across that's pretty good, and you're like, okay, let's do that. And then you're 6 years into development and it doesn't work out exactly how you would hoped it would, right?
Yeah.
Having these figureheads to look over these major franchises allows it to be that all those pitches can kind of get like relegated. So then the best ideas are the
Yeah.
ones that go through, the ones that get into production.
How do you feel about since you have a strong relationship with WB, how do you feel the people that they selected as well? You're like, okay, yeah, this is the right guy, this is the right girl for the job and everything. So
Well, like I said, I met Sean Hemrick at NetherRealm Studios. I think he's a really professional dude. Every time I've ever interacted with him, he's super on the ball.
Yep.
And he knows his stuff. He's definitely very much engrossed in the world of Mortal Kombat and loves that world and has been involved, obviously, at NetherRealm Studios for a very long time. So in terms of overseeing Mortal Kombat projects, it makes a lot of sense. I don't know entirely what his DC knowledge is, but NetherRealm has worked on Injustice games before. They probably have had access to the DC archives before. So I'm sure he's done his research. He knows his stuff. I'm hoping that the higher ups at WB Games know what they're doing in terms of the people that they're appointing here.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know much about the guy who runs WB Montreal. I do know that WB Montreal obviously has been struggling quite a bit.
Yes.
Like Gotham Knights wasn't as massive of a failure as Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, but it certainly wasn't a major success by any means. So that's the one that I'm going to keep a bit of a closer eye on and see how things go on that side of things.
Yeah.
But I do have a decent amount of faith in Sean Hemrick. And if he's the one who's looking over DC games, then it could mean something bright for the future of DC games specifically.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll
What
see.
do you
We'll
feel
see.
about PlayStation wanting to acquire WB Games though?
Yeah, so this is the topic that you were telling me about before
Yeah.
we went live.
Everyone's coming for WB, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. So this is really interesting. I don't know who this comes from. SE Scoops. Do you know who that is or who?
Never heard of them.
So this is interesting. Apparently they've been covering professional wrestling since 2004. I don't know the validity of this source, if I'm being honest, but Insider Gaming are reporting on it. And so this is what we have.
I got Game Rants as well, yeah.
Yeah, this is what we're seeing here. Sources said Sony was only interested in acquiring WBD's streaming studio and gaming assets if they were separated from its cable networks, which have lost millions of homes as viewers abandon traditional cable packages. I think that there is a world where this could happen.
Yeah.
I don't think it's likely to happen, though. I think at the end of the day, for as much as WB is extremely unorganized and they're making a lot of mistakes and they're losing a lot of money and you know they're splitting up the company into two or whatever it might be, or they're merging with Warner Brothers to become Warner Brothers Discovery and this and that. Like there's been so much conversation over WB just all over the place, right?
Yep.
I don't think though that they ever want to get rid of or sell their assets.
No.
I don't think there is a world where, unless Sony brings a boatload of cash, that WB is like, all right, here you go. Take our gaming assets, take our games division. It's all yours now. And I honestly also don't think that there's a world where Sony is going to put up any kind of money for it because they don't really need to. They've got such a good working relationship with Marvel. They've got Spider-Man exclusive for the PlayStation, Wolverine on the way. Who knows what else that could lead to? Because if you got Wolverine exclusive on PlayStation, if Insomniac ever wants to make an X-Men game or whatever it might be, or spin-offs of other X-Men characters, that just all stands under the PlayStation umbrella now. So it's like they have such a good working relationship with Marvel games that it's like, what would they really need DC as well? You know, like, why would they really need to take that? And also just from a consumer standpoint, do we really want just every major IP, every major thing to just have 3 studios in the world own? Like,
absolutely.
You know, like, do we not want more creative minds to be
Different
taking
variety.
control of these IPs, man? Like,
Yeah, like
I don't know.
they're trying to go like the Xbox route with like Activision and King Gaming and
Right.
all that. Like it's just I don't know. I hope it is not true. Isn't like a conflict of interest having owning like some form of Marvel games and then now you want DC as well?
I think so too. Yeah.
So
Like, if
like
you're going to have DC projects and you're going to own WB projects or assets,
yeah.
Marvel might not like that. They might not be too happy with, like, hey, we don't really want PlayStation to be known for DC as well as
Yeah.
Marvel. Because as much as like Kevin Feige will congratulate James Gunn on directing Superman, at the end of the day, Kevin Feige's gotta do right by Marvel.
Oh, yeah.
And if DC starts to get ahead, it lights a fire under Marvel's ass, and they gotta say, oh, we gotta figure out how to catch back up. It's the reason why DC's in the position that it's in right now. Because Marvel has just been nonstop crushing it, banger after banger after banger, and now Marvel is starting to slip up. Now Marvel's starting to put out projects that don't make as much money, that don't review as well.
Yep.
It is like as perfect of a time as any for DC to swoop in, release Superman. It's the best movie of the summer, and all of a sudden everyone's gung ho all about everything DC. This is a competition only creates big wins for the consumers at home.
Well, absolutely. Like, just before the Doomsday shows up and everything, this is a win opportunity for DC to step up and everything, which is why they should make another Justice game right now.
Yes, yes.
Bring us another Justice game.
I know. I'm really hopeful. I'm worried when they talk a lot about Mortal Kombat as one of their key pillars because it sounds like they're just so all in.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful that Injustice is just part of their plans because it's DC Mortal Kombat. You know what I mean? It's a fighting game from NetherRealm with DC characters, right? Like, and hell, Mortal Kombat characters show up in it anyway. Sub-Zero's and Raiden are in freaking Injustice 2. You know?
There you go. There you have it right there. So
yeah, but in regards to this rumor, this talk about Sony potentially acquiring WB Games, like, again, there's a multiverse out there where it's totally happening. But I don't think that this is the universe where something like that happens. I don't think WB gives up its assets.
How much money do they have? Like, they're able to pull this out of their butt. Like, yeah, we can buy them. Like,
I just wonder what that acquisition even looks like.
Right?
Because if they're buying WB Games and WB is essentially saying you can have access to the DC brand, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, and Mortal Kombat, we're talking like
billions already.
Like you're talking. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't want to speak too hyperbolic,
at least.
But are we talking something that's on the level of, or if not, maybe even bigger than the Activision acquisition from Xbox?
A little bit, because those like, I would say so. Just due to DC's like
exactly DC's whole library.
Whole library. That alone.
Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, The Flash, Wonder Woman. Like you're talking already right there.
This is not when like
billions of
dollars.
Not
like when like how Marvel was like at the time Marvel was like losing a lot of money, and like Disney swooped them in.
Right, exactly.
Like DC is still like at its peak right now. So,
well, yeah, and at the end of the day, you're still talking about massive franchises. Because even with that Marvel deal, that was without Spider-Man. That was without. You know, like even with like Hulk is still in like a limbo with Universal.
That's right.
There's a lot of characters that didn't end up being a part of that Marvel deal. And it was really only their C-list, D-list heroes. Like, I'm sorry, nobody was talking about Iron Man before the Iron Man movie came out. Nobody's really talking about Captain America before the Captain America movie came out. Yep. So yeah, it was a $4 billion purchase for Marvel on the film side.
Even with like, I just learned that Scarlet. Sometimes just random YouTube video. Scarlet and Quicksilver. They were allowed in that movie because they couldn't be called mutants.
It was a weird limbo. If they weren't referred to as mutants, they could use them. Exactly.
Her powers all unlocked with the Mind Stone. I was like, hey, what is happening? That's I didn't know that.
Wacky stuff. I mean, at the same time that they had Quicksilver in Avengers, they put Quicksilver in one of those X-Men movies.
That's right.
That's how much of like a weird rights like issue or limbo there was at the time. But yeah, like with DC, like you said, like, you know, you're talking about some of the biggest superheroes in the history of pop culture, like Batman and Superman.
Batman alone. Yeah.
Everyone knows. Everyone. So if you're going to have that in your library and that's going to be a part of the purchase, you're already talking at like an easy $30 billion for those two characters. Those two. And now you throw in Wonder Woman, you throw in Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, like the number just gets gigantic.
I can't. You know? I know Sony's a big company. Where are you pulling this money from? Like,
Now-
I don't understand.
Now, if the conversation is PlayStation might pony up the money to have the next Hogwarts Legacy or the Game of Thrones game be a PlayStation exclusive, different conversation.
Different conversation. Yeah.
Big maybe on
Yeah.
something like
That
that. That can totally.
That's
totally
something they can
happen,
afford. Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
But grabbing and scooping up the assets as a whole,
Yeah.
I think there's no shot. I don't think it happens.
Like, you don't see Sony being like, okay, Justice 3 exclusive on PlayStation and PC.
Yeah.
You don't see that scenario?
I don't. I think, like it could have happened in the world where Marvel Tokon wasn't happening. It could have happened. I do think that fighting games are going to be very predominantly PlayStation.
Yes.
Because of the fact that PlayStation owns Evo,
Yep.
and they put a lot of stock into fighting games as a whole. So you might see like an exclusive skin, or you're going to see marketing rights for PlayStation, right? But I don't think that Injustice goes full exclusive, especially the third one out of like the first two games being cross-platform.
Multi-plat,
the third one being
it was even on Wii U. One of them.
Yeah, you would ruffle some feathers, man, if all of a sudden
Yeah.
Injustice 3 comes out and it's PlayStation exclusive.
That'd be
But
crazy.
I do think like there were rumors when it was talks about Rocksteady going back to Batman that PlayStation might want to scoop that up, and it's possible. It's totally possible. I could see it happening. I just wonder, like, what WB Games' plan going forward beyond their in-house studios are, because they talked about how they wanted to start shelling out their IPs and working with third-party, development studios. Like, I would love to see a Naughty Dog or a hypothetical, right? Like an Insomniac work on a DC project. I think it would be awesome. And it really is about time to start doing stuff like that, because if you just do everything in-house, you're just not going to get the right amount of passion, right? If you go to one of these, that's how you get something like the Guardians of the Galaxy game, right? Because Marvel is like, they'll go to a studio and they'll say, hey, look at our library. Look at all these characters. Do you want to make a game for any of these? And Eidos Montreal will be like, the Guardians sounds enticing. We have an idea for that. Or Insomniac, who they've gone on record and said, Marvel came to them and said, you can make a game out of any of our characters, choose. Insomniac were the ones who were like, we want to do Spider-Man. And they probably had the same.
You had that much access. Like, we'll pick Spider-Man.
Exactly. And I imagine that same exact conversation happened with Wolverine, where at some point Marvel was like, guys, we really love what you're doing, Spider-Man. Is there any other character you'd like to work on? And they were like, Wolverine. Like, that's probably how it happens. And that's such a collaborative way to work with all of these talented studios that are out there, and it allows your IP to be maximized.
Why do you think the Guardians game didn't work? I love that game. That was when I played it. I had a chance to play it. That was probably like a top 3 game of that year.
Didn't sell well though, right?
Yeah, but why do you think so?
It's because of the Avengers game. I think Square Enix publishing Avengers and it being such a massive failure, it really soured the taste. So then when people saw Square Enix Marvel game Guardians of the Galaxy, they were like, I don't want more Avengers. I'm good.
Yeah.
I also think, and not a lot of people have talked about this, but it might be a hot take. I think that the game looks very weird. There's a lot where they're taking the MCU approach, which was the right goal, right? That you should have done that. But I also think that they wanted to do a lot that was from the comic books and stuff that was from hardcore fans of Guardians are going to love. Yep. And I think that it was that side and marketing it essentially that way, where they realized this is why when they made that Guardians movie, they changed so much, because when James Gunn came in and he made that Guardians film, there's a lot of ideas from the comic books, but it really is a drastically different approach. Yeah. And a large part of that is because they needed a new thing out of this, It needed to be something new. It needed to be something that would work for modern audiences, and modern audiences aren't really in tune with a lot of the comic booky stuff that comes from the Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. But I think a large portion as to why it didn't sell as well is because of Avengers.
Okay. Yeah. Like everything I think about the game, especially with the presentation and music integration as well, which I know that's probably
Yeah.
very heavily from the movies. But even just their little banter, I would just go on the ship. I was like,
Oh, it's
man, like
awesome.
there'd be times just sitting there, just listening to the conversation, and be like, man, this is like I feel like I'm on a real ship. It is yip yapping.
There's also like such great
stupid fridge
character
door never
moments.
closes.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. The
that damn
fridge
door, that door never closes whatsoever.
Yeah. There's also just great character moments throughout that. Like there's a part there with
Yeah.
Drax where he talks about his family and stuff that I
Yeah.
thought was like fantastic. Like really good writing. I think it's such a gem. And you know what? Like
It is.
if I were WB Games, I would take 10 Guardians of the Galaxies that maybe don't sell as well, but become these like critically acclaimed, like hidden gems over a single Suicide Squad, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that they would feel the same way. And I think that's again a large part of the reason why they should start working with third-party studios.
Yep. Do you think since how the game basically how like people now I feel like people now realize, okay, no, this was actually a good game. Can I hear it now? People are like, oh my god, this game is amazing.
Right.
Even though they get it stupid cheap and everything. If they
Yeah.
were to if just by like another universe, another timeline, you think it'll do well if they just like, hey, what second one's coming out?
I think that there is a possibility that they
Yeah.
could make a second game that would end up doing decent.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Now that the Avengers stink has left the air.
Yeah. It's tough though. Like sometimes consumers are like they're like stubborn about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that, and it's part of the reason too why you look at some on the film side of thing, right? Like Thunderbolts is a great freaking movie.
That's a
It's like
really
one of the
good
best
movie.
MCU films in a long time.
Very long. Since Endgame.
Didn't even cross 400 million at the box office, man.
That's insane.
It's wild. It's wild. And I think a large part of that is just people are starting to see some bad MCU projects and they start associating that with the brand as a whole. And it leads to like less and less return. Whereas it was the other way around before COVID, right? Before Endgame.
Yep.
Whereas they could put out Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is like totally subpar when you compare it to any of their other projects, and it'll still make like a cool, easy 700 million because it's like, it's Marvel. I'm going to go watch it. You know what I mean?
And then you have the whole FOMO effect. Like, I don't want to miss out of something that's continuity with the whole universe timeline.
The
and
big
everything.
story. Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. So I think sometimes like the consumers can be a little stubborn. They aren't necessarily like project to project. It's more so just like, you know, the last time Square Enix made a Marvel game was Avengers. I really didn't like Avengers, or, you know, a lot of people didn't like Avengers.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's just, you know, I don't know I don't really care for what they're going to do next. You know, that's how I'm assuming that's how some people feel.
Yeah. I just want to mention very quickly that Microsoft has confirmed to be working with AMD the next console. So there you have it, folks. If you're worried about if Xbox was out of the console game, there's a proof right there.
There you go.
Coming out with some
Another
AMD.
Xbox on the way.
There you go.
Yeah, I think it was always a safe bet to assume that there was going to be the next Xbox.
Yeah.
PlayStation as well said that PS6 is on the top of their mind, but we all know that another PlayStation is happening at some point.
We have Switch 3 down the road. You know,
I just wonder how close we are to the end of this console generation.
I will say 2028.
You think that's when we get the next console?
Yeah. Since the pandemic, I think things probably got pushed a little bit.
Yeah.
2028 would be a safe bet.
That's fair. Yeah, I think that's about right. Because that makes it... Normally, these console generations are somewhere around 6 to 7 years.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like, I think COVID really pushed some things further out than PlayStation or Xbox would have liked. So 2028 does sound about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to wait and see. But Caboose, what's going on for you for the rest of the week?
That's it. Still playing my Switch 2, you know, still enjoying a lot of the video games that are out right now. I'm jumping back into Fortnite, you know, trying out the they got Superman in there from the new movie, which is cool.
Okay. Have you tried it on your Switch too, though?
I have not. I should try it on the Switch.
There's a mouse. You can try the mouse mode on there if you wanted to.
Cross progression as well. You know?
That's right.
Probably get some easy wins on the Switch too, man. A bunch of freaking sweats playing on all these other consoles. God, can't have no fun. But yeah, that's about it. You know, and you can check me out on YouTube and Twitch. That is twitch.tv/Caboose, youtube.com/Caboose, or Twitter and Instagram @CabooseEK.
Awesome. And for me, now that Pixel Power Play is officially done, post recap and everything, now I got Twitch Rivals. First time doing it this Friday. Going to be playing Rematch. So Very interesting game, I will say.
Ooh.
For the
Rematch
players
looks
of
awesome. I want to play it, man.
Yeah, I think it's available today, actually.
Oh shoot! All right, I gotta get my hands on it.
But yeah, if you want to come check me out, MD14 on Twitch. Why don't you come cheer me on? I'm with 4 other people gonna try to win some prize and money. So, first time doing Twitch Rivals virtually. I did it physically at TwitchCon because Twitch likes to screw me over sometimes. Like, oh, you want to be Twitch Rivals? Well, you can chase this balloon around in this box, sweat all day. Like, thanks a lot, Twitch. But I'm excited for the opportunity. But besides, everyone, we'll see you guys all next week. Okay, take care.